With the foreclosure moratorium coming to an end, what is going to happen to the 2 million people that are still currently in forbearance? Will there be a flood of foreclosures that hit the market? And if so, how will that impact the real estate market? Find out on today's video.
Go to 8weekacademy.com to claim your free copy of Jerry Norton's most popular training. In it, he reveals his blueprint for making $100,000 per year with real estate.
In case you didn't know, in 2020, the federal government offered forbearance on mortgage payments to borrowers who could not make their payments that were negatively affected by the pandemic. That means they didn't have to make their mortgage payments and lenders were not allowed to foreclose for non-payment. This is referred to as a foreclosure moratorium. Now, many of these borrowers have since recovered from the pandemic and resumed paying their mortgages, but there are still an estimated 2 million homeowners currently in forbearance, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, and around 900,000 of those are due to expire later this year, 2021. Now, keep in mind, the number of people in forbearance is down 50% from its peak in May 2020 when there were 4 million people in forbearance. And the Biden administration just announced another foreclosure moratorium extension, this time until August 31st, 2021. That means after August 31st, lenders can resume normal foreclosure proceedings, but not so fast. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, just outlined additional requirements that lenders must adhere to in order to proceed with foreclosures. These new measures, as of now, will take effect until the end of the year. Now, we'll discuss these requirements in a minute, but the question that's on everyone's mind, or at least should be on everyone's mind, is once lenders are able to resume foreclosures on borrowers in default, will the market see a flood of foreclosures, and how will that impact the real estate market? Now, as history teaches, a wave of foreclosures can negatively impact the real estate market as it did after the 2008 real estate crash. The reason is because by the time foreclosures hit the open market, they are often abandoned, neglected, and in serious disrepair, so they sell at steep discounts, thus driving down home values. But let's try and put in perspective a comparison from 2008 to now in 2021 and 2022. In 2008, there were roughly 2.25 million foreclosures that occurred, followed by a 20% increase in 2009 to 2.8 million foreclosures. That's over 5 million foreclosures just during those 2 years. Now let's compare that to 2021, when we are in the hottest real estate market in history with nationwide average appreciation of 15% right now. We have record low interest rates and low supply and high demand for housing. So with that in mind, let's look again at people in forbearance. Like I said, as of this recording today, there are approximately 2 million people still in forbearance, 900,000 of which expired this year in 2021. The rest will end next year in 2022. So they won't all end at the same time. That's important because even if every single person in forbearance ends up foreclosing, it will be a trickle effect as those homes hit the market. And keep in mind, the foreclosure process typically takes 6 months. So at this point, we won't see any of these foreclosures start to hit the market until 2022 and 2023. But the question to consider is how many of those 2 million currently in forbearance are going to foreclose. It's hard to say, but we can make some reasonable assumptions. It's safe to say that some are going to resume making payments, some will work out a loan modification, some are going to capitalize on their increased equity and just sell their properties, and some who may not have any equity for whatever reason will do a short sale, and then certainly some will foreclose. But my estimation is only about 10%, or around 200,000, will actually result in foreclosures between 2022 and 2023, which if you compare that to the 2008 and 09, that's only 4% of the 5 million foreclosures that happened during that time. Not even close to the same impact. Part of the reason why I think it will be only 10% is because even though forbearance is supposedly ending soon, lenders still have rules and restrictions on who they can foreclose on and how they proceed. Let's talk about it. In an effort to get lenders to make a greater effort to reach out to borrowers and try to avoid foreclosure, the CFPB added some new rules as well as more flexibility with borrowers in default. The first rule is lenders cannot initiate a foreclosure action until after the borrower has submitted a loss mitigation application and either isn't eligible for or breaks or rejects a loss mitigation agreement. And if you don't know, loss mitigation is simply the process of working with the borrower to find a solution to avoid foreclosure. Now, some loss mitigation options, such as a loan modification, allow the borrower to stay in the home. Other options, like a short sale or a deed in lieu of foreclosure, help a borrower give up the property without going through foreclosure. So lenders have to first give borrowers the opportunity to mitigate before being allowed to foreclose. Another rule also clarifies that escrow shortages, which lenders are eager to recover, can be included in a loss mitigation option. And now there are limits on how much lenders can require borrowers to deposit into escrow accounts over the next year. And unlike in the past when loan modifications were a time-consuming and lengthy process, as long as the modification does not increase the monthly payments or stretch the mortgage term out beyond 40 years, lenders can offer streamlined loan modifications to borrowers. Another rule is that lenders can't charge any extra fees for loan modifications, and if a borrower accepts a loan modification, the lender must waive any late charges. And the last rule, which I think is pretty ridiculous, is clarity to the definition of financial hardship to mean any hardship that the pandemic brought on, either indirectly or directly. So in other words, for any reason whatsoever. I'm imagining this conversation during loss mitigation. Okay, sir, I have one more final question to see if you qualify. Please answer to the best of your ability. Did you experience any type of hardship due to COVID? Oh, yes? Oh, good. We're all set then. Now, it's worth noting that there are two exceptions to these rules, allowing lenders to immediately proceed with foreclosure, and that is if the borrower was already 6 months past due by March 2020, or if the property is abandoned. Now, another option for delinquent borrowers to avoid foreclosure that wasn't previously available is refinancing their properties. Under previous conditions, Fannie Mae required homeowners to not have missed any payments on their home loan in the past 6 months and have only missed one payment during the past 12 months. Now that meant none of the people in forbearance would qualify to refinance, but Fannie Mae just changed the requirements. Now, borrowers who have missed a payment on their mortgage in the past 12 months due to being in COVID-related forbearance can still refinance if certain conditions are met. So all of these additional rules and requirements that lenders must follow and these new programs will certainly cut down on the number of foreclosures, which is why I estimate that only 10% of the remaining 2 million in forbearance will end up in foreclosure. And like I already said, any foreclosures that do occur will probably not happen all at once and may even provide some much needed supply to the housing market. Now, if you agree with my assessment, leave a comment and say, Jerry, you're right, you're a flipping genius. If you disagree, I'd love to hear why. Leave a comment and let me know that as well. And if you're a real estate investor and a flipper, you can help a motivated seller before they lose their property to foreclosure. This is called pre-foreclosure and can also be a great source to find good deals. Now, I did a video that explains everything you need to know, so watch that now. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel. With over 725 videos, this is the #1 channel on YouTube for all things flipping, and I'll see you on the next video.